Attention, you're listening to the Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised that the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
All right, my friends, we're going to continue, I guess. Been some developments. We're going to continue talking a little bit about Epstein, the Epstein files. Trump's now threatening to sue the Wall Street Journal for a story that, involves a letter that they say was written by Trump to Jeffrey Epstein on his 50th birthday that included a silhouette, a picture drawn by Trump. Trump says, of course, this is not his. This is fake news. He's going to sue them. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this today or if this makes me a former or past supporter, but I'm going to do it anyway, my friends, because I find it relevant and important. Also want to talk a little bit about where we are. We are 100, I talked about this in today's Todd Talk, 179 days. That's where we are today in Trump's second term. That is basically 6 months, right? There's 365 days a year. There's 12 months in a year. So if you take 365 days and cut those in half, that's 6 months. So what is that? 182 and a half days is 6 months, at least a perfect half of the year. So we're right at that point, and I want to talk about some of the things. Remember they told us in those days, well, actually the first 5 or 10 minutes after Trump was sworn in on January 20th, they told us Trump hasn't lowered the egg prices yet. He's not fixed inflation yet. He's not brought peace to this or that region yet, mocking us. And now we've got 6 months of track records to compare, which these results speak for themselves, my friends. That's the direction that we are going to take today. Program brought to you in part by our friends at Salty. Friends, if you have high cholesterol, if you are concerned about your heart's health, if you're just aging, which all of us are, like it or not, and I don't always like it. I don't like to admit it, but we're aging. It's better in one sense than the alternative. I guess if you know Jesus, that's maybe not even entirely true. Definitely not true. But the reality is that aging is part of life. And as we age, we need to pay better attention, closer attention to our health. I suppose at least that's, good health is more natural when you're young than when you get older. So Salty is an all-natural product that helps you take control of your heart health. It gives you, the research has been proven here, that people who take Salty have seen their cholesterol drop, and you can find the same happening for you as well. I take the product. You can as well. Salty.com. SOLTEA. Salty.com. Promo code Todd gets you half off, and it gets you free shipping. And this is an affordable product anyway. It's a great place to start for your heart health. Salty.com, promo code Todd. All right, let us get to the story here today. The story that ran in the Wall Street Journal about Trump and his this alleged letter that he wrote to Jeffrey Epstein. Trump says he did not do this. Trump says this is fake news. So here's what we know. The Wall Street Journal says they reviewed a 2003 birthday letter sent by not then president, but Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein, included in a leather-bound album compiled by Ghislaine Maxwell for Epstein's 50th birthday. So Ghislaine Maxwell, this is the story. Who knows if any of this is true? I do believe Trump, by the way. I don't think that Trump's written him some stupid letter with a drawing on it. But Ghislaine Maxwell had apparently, if you believe any of this story, for Epstein's 50th birthday, had decided to put together letters from his friends, colleagues, people that he knew, famous, whatever, and put them in this leather-bound album, booklet of sorts. And they say, the Wall Street Journal says that one of these was sent by Trump. The note contained a typewritten message. Again, this is what, I want to be careful here. This is not, I'm not reporting this as, I'm telling you what they are saying, what they, the Wall Street Journal, is saying. And Trump says, this ain't true. This is made up, and the Wall Street Journal is going to be sued, and I'm going to get to that in a moment. Anyway, the Wall Street Journal says the note contained a typewritten message framed by a hand-drawn nude silhouette and ended with this: "Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret." It bore a signature of Donald, placed under the drawing's waistline. The letter also features, according to the Wall Street Journal, playful dialogue between Trump and Epstein, including lines like, "We have certain things in common, Jeffrey." According to the Wall Street Journal, the Department of Justice had previously reviewed this letter as part of a broader Epstein investigation. Now, Trump says, not so fast, Wall Street Journal. Trump takes to Truth Social here to dispute this, to deal with this allegation, to deal with this disgusting sort of situation that he finds himself in here. Let me scroll down to the appropriate Truth Social post, which I have marked with a bookmark here. Where did that go? There we go. Well, there's two of them. Here we go. Let's go to the first one. Actually, there's several of these. Here's the lengthy response that Trump made on Truth Social. This would have been last night about 8:30 p.m., Thursday the 17th. Here's what he says. The Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch personally were warned directly by President Donald J. Trump. This is Trump. This could be confusing. This is Trump talking about himself, I guess, in the third person here. So this is Trump writing this on Truth Social. So again, the Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch personally were warned directly by President Donald J. Trump that the supposed letter they printed by President Trump to Epstein was a fake, and if they print it, they will be sued. Mr. Murdoch stated that he would take care of it, but obviously did not have the power to do so. The editor of the Wall Street Journal, Emma Tucker, was told directly by Caroline Leavitt and by President Trump that the letter was fake. Capital F, capital A, capital K, capital E. But Emma Tucker didn't want to hear that. Instead, they are going with a false, malicious, and defamatory story anyway. President Trump will be suing the Wall Street Journal, News Corp, and Mr. Murdoch shortly. The press has to learn to be truthful and not rely on sources that probably don't even exist. President Trump has already beaten George Stephanopoulos, ABC, 60 Minutes, CBS, and others, and looks forward to suing and holding accountable the once great Wall Street Journal. It has truly turned out to be a, quote, disgusting and filthy rag, end quote. And writing defamatory lies like this shows their desperation to remain relevant. If there were any truth at all to the Epstein hoax, as it pertains to President Trump, this information would have been revealed by Comey, Brennan, Crooked Hillary. I like how he sticks with Crooked Hillary. Anyway, and other radical left lunatics years ago. It certainly would not have sat in a file waiting for Trump, all caps and in quotation marks, I'm not sure what that specifically means, to have won three elections. I like that little note as well. Trump points out that he's won 3 elections. This is yet another example of fake news. So that's Trump's response. We're suing you. This isn't real. This is defamatory. This is malicious. This is, this is what is it, liable, I guess, if it's printed. This is defamatory. This is unacceptable. I'm not going to stand by idly and let this happen. A little bit later, what time was this one? About a half an hour later, 9 o'clock, 9:07 p.m. last night, Trump posted this on Truth Social based on the ridiculous amount of publicity given to Jeffrey Epstein. I have asked Attorney General, pay attention here because this is a little bit of a deviation from where we were even yesterday. He says, I have asked Attorney General Pam Bondi to produce any and all pertinent grand jury testimony subject to court approval. This scam, SCAM, all in caps, perpetrated by the Democrats should end right now. So we went from yesterday, basically the position being, if you were talking about this issue, Jeffrey Epstein, you were a past, and you had supported Trump in the past. He didn't want your support. You're a past supporter. He criticized this. I talked about this yesterday. I told him that I told you and anyone listening that's I support what Trump is. In fact, I want to get to in the latter part of this program what Trump has helped us accomplish as a nation in just 6 months, which is absolutely amazing. He's done fantastic things. I am an ally. I've been one who has been supportive of virtually everything he's done. I don't even know. I'd have to go back and really pause and think about something I was not on board with that Trump wanted to do. I might have had questions from time to time, but the problems in this country are so obvious, and the solutions, I think, are so obvious that it's easy to agree in general that this is the direction that this country needs to go. So I've been in support of that. I also have questions about Jeffrey Epstein. I have questions about, I shared those yesterday. I don't want to hash that out. You can listen to yesterday's podcast, yesterday's program. I don't want to go through that step by step again. But suffice it to say, I have questions. I should be able to ask questions. If I have questions and the leader of the Republican Party or the President of the United States says stop asking questions and I don't have answers, forgive me, I'm not going to suddenly stop asking questions. I understand if the answer, to a point, if the answer is I can't give you the answer to that question because there's other things that would happen that would not be in anyone's best interest. Okay. And I think that there's an element of that here, which I alluded to yesterday. But to pretend that I have to stop asking the questions and that I'm the one that's shining the light, or that people in this world of talk radio or the blogosphere or conservative media, we're the ones that have put too much attention on Jeffrey Epstein. What Jeffrey Epstein is alleged to have done, what Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison for, this is reprehensible, evil stuff. This was exploiting and trafficking children. This by very nature, by very definition, required that other people be involved. I mean, conspiracy charges between the two of them, but that's obvious. One has to be there has to be more than one person working together for the purposes of a conspiracy. Okay, let's just assume, maybe this isn't even true, but let's assume that Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were the ones who were the only two who were conspiring here, but they were conspiring to offer young people up to these sexual predators. That's the narrative, the story here. That's what we know. Who was purchasing this? Who was out there involved in this? This is a totally legitimate thing to want to pursue. While I also understand that there may be a lot larger ramifications here, especially if Jeffrey Epstein was a foreign intelligence agent of another country, especially maybe an ally like Israel. I think that there's a chance that is actually the problem here. So I get it. I get that I can't know all that information, but I also get that I have a desire for justice and that justice is demanded. Justice is demanded for those who are victimized, who have been victimized by Jeffrey Epstein and the people that are on the quote-unquote list, which again might not be everybody on the flight log, but would include some of those people, maybe most, I don't know percentage-wise, but the bottom line is you can't just drop this and expect people to say, okay, we trust you, let's move on. That's not the case. Now, because of this article, this story in the Wall Street Journal, which Trump says is absolutely positively false, he's going to sue the Wall Street Journal, Rupert Murdoch, News Corp, and on top of that, he's ordered Pam Bondi to release grand jury testimony as much as the court will allow. He says, look, if you're going to say I'm the one that's involved in this morally bankrupt, just absolutely depraved wickedness, then I'm going to notice what he didn't say, though. He didn't say release the list, which they say there isn't a list. Jeffrey Epstein, they say, committed suicide. There's really nothing else that they can provide. There's a reason they're not providing it, and it's one of a couple of reasons, a handful. We went through those yesterday. But they didn't say, fine, we'll release the documents. They said, let's release the testimony. Let's release the grand jury testimony so you can actually read what has been said in this particular case. So that's where this is now. I don't know where this goes from here, although I fully expect a lawsuit to be sitting on the desk of Rupert Murdoch, News Corp, Wall Street Journal here in very, very short order. Very, very short order. And look, good. There should be a lawsuit sitting on their desk when they get to the office on Monday morning or whatever, however long it takes to pull this thing together. And Trump is right in his Truth Social doing a little trash talking here. He says, look, George Stephanopoulos at ABC, 60 Minutes and CBS, they found out what happens when you do things you're not supposed to do, when you lie or when you malign someone's character as though it is a proven fact. You get, you're held accountable. You're held accountable. If you're trying to help a candidate, as 60 Minutes did with Kamala Harris, if you're trying to help her win an election, then there's consequences for that. You're not supposed to be putting your finger on the scales of the election if you're in the media, but you were. There's consequences for this type of behavior. I'm going to come after you. Be prepared. And in the meantime, we're going to release some additional information. I don't know. Does this, for those of you who are in the camp with me, who I know some of you are of the opinion, just let the Epstein stuff go. You know, we got other things we've got to do. This nation's got to get fixed. We can't have anything in the way. I understand the thinking. I do. I don't come to that conclusion because I don't think it's an either-or proposition. And I certainly don't think that we should be ignoring the required justice that these victims deserve. I don't think that that's a good thing to do. I think that pursuing justice is a very, very important part of leadership. Reminds me of a verse in the Bible: do justice, love mercy, walk humbly with your God. I think doing justice, especially, look, I know that that's a big responsibility as the President of the United States. He's over, look, you can say the Attorney General is the number one law enforcement agent in the country. That's not really true. It's the President. Everybody reports to the President in the executive branch. The President is ultimately the one who is responsible for the rule of law, for justice. There's a Department of Justice in the executive branch, and you could say it's run by the Attorney General, but that's all semantics. It's run by the President of the United States. I know some people don't see it that way. They think that you can break the Department of Justice away from the executive branch. That's sophistry and silliness. It is under the executive branch. They're inextricably linked, no matter how many attempts are made to try to create this feeling of separation. I don't think that there should be, quite candidly, a separation between the president and the Department of Justice. It's in his own stinking cabinet. It's under his authority and purview, responsibility. It's just one of the things that, look, when you have a president of the United States that's the head of the executive branch, they're in a unique position. And I think that that's the way it should be. That's the way it was set up. Anyway, but this idea that having to hand out justice it's not easy to do. There's a lot of responsibility. And I know that there are things to balance. I know there are things that information I'm not privy to or aware of. I get all of that. My friends. But I'll tell you this, justice needs to be done. Justice needs to be pursued. So, but does this move here, is this in your mind, if you're in my camp that says, look, I'm still on your side, Mr. President, in spite of everything you say, but I still expect justice to be served for, in this case, Jeffrey Epstein in particular. This is the case we're talking about. The Epstein files, the people involved in this atrocious, wicked, evil, depraved nonsense, wickedness, just utter filth. These folks need to be held accountable. If you're in that camp, still supporting what the president's doing while disagreeing with him on this, does this announcement that Pam Bondi is going to try to get some of this grand jury testimony released, does it make you feel a little bit like there's a nod to you to say, look, I'm going to try to give you what I can, but I can't give you everything? Or is this just something else that you take in stride? I don't know what I think about this yet. I do think that it indicates, the biggest takeaway for me is that there's just something that they can't tell us, that he doesn't think he can tell us. It's going to have major, major ramifications. And I don't think it's because he's guilty. I don't think it's that. I think that they would have long ago hung this guy out to dry. So it's about all I want to say about that. I want to move on to the next segment. Before I do that, though, my friends, if you are a business owner, if you're in marketing at a company, if you are in HR at a company, and you're responsible for getting branded merchandise, apparel, trade show graphics, promotional products, things for job fairs, things for to give to customers or to give to new homeowners. If you work at a bank or whatever and you're giving branded things to clients, things with your logo on it, or you're using those yourself, Red, White, and Brand is here to help you. RedWhiteandBrand.com is the website. This, by the way, is a division of the Todd Huff Show. Use promo code Todd, you'll save 10%. And if you place an order online, you get free shipping. RedWhiteandBrand.com, promo code Todd. Got to take a break, my friends. Quick timeout. Back in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. By the way, program brought to you in part by Freedom Marketplace. Freedom Marketplace is a directory that we have built here at the Todd Huff Show to help connect conservative listeners like you with businesses that are pushing in the same direction that you are. And so we created Freedom Marketplace. I told you a little bit about this the other day. But Freedom Marketplace is a place where you can go to find those businesses that are pushing in the same direction as you are. And this means that they are not supporting woke candidates and woke causes. Look, we are winning the political fight in this country. Conservatism is. It is critical that we cut off the blood flow to liberalism, and that means that we have to remove the financial ties that these corporations have, where they take the profits that they get from us and send it to these woke candidates and woke causes. We have the radical left on the ropes here. Now they are the tentacles run deep, so it's time to really crank it up. And Freedom Marketplace is one way that you can do that. Check it out, freedommarketplace.net. It's free to use. Check it out today, freedommarketplace.net. All right, I alluded to this off the top of the program. I told you that we were going to talk about the number of illegal aliens who were who are reportedly self-deporting. Stephen Miller was on with Jesse Waters I think this was Wednesday night. I had this in the stack yesterday, but again, yesterday I spoke about Trump saying that I'm a past supporter, which I think that's what we talked about the entire program, I believe. But I wanted to get to this as well. So Stephen Miller from the administration is on with Jesse Waters. They're talking about illegal immigration. They're talking about what that was like under the Biden administration. The Biden administration oversaw an economy where all new jobs effectively went to people who were here illegally or undocumented, as they like to say, and or going to people that weren't actual native-born Americans. This has had a radical shift since Trump's been in office for many reasons. One of those reasons is that people are leaving this country. I've talked about this before. There's been reports, stories, anecdotes of people paying coyotes. These are people who typically are responsible for smuggling someone into the United States of America. Now they're paying coyotes in some instances to be exported out of America, to be moved across the border in the other direction. Remember, too, Trump's offered $1,000. $1,000. And Stephen Miller talks about that here. If you self-deport, you'll get $1,000, and you're not going to have your future possibility of coming back here totally destroyed. If you're deported because you have broken the law and remain here unlawfully, then you're going to lose everything that you've any chance of coming back, any property or whatever that you've home that you have here, all that's gone. But if you cooperate here and you self-deport, then there's going to be a little bit of maybe grace or at least an opportunity to figure out something in the future. But right now, you're not supposed to be here. It's time to go. That's what Stephen Miller is talking about here with Jesse Waters. And I want you to listen to this, especially the number of people that the administration estimates to have self-deported from this country. Listen to this.
Well, based on the labor force data, so as you know, under the Biden administration, all job growth on net since Biden came into office went to foreigners, e.g., they went to the migrants. Under Trump, all job gains have gone to Americans. Looking at labor force data, we believe there's already been 1 million self-deportations. Wow. So we are well on our way here. If we stay the course, Jesse, and if illegal aliens understand the consequences of staying...
I'm going to pause this. 1 million. They estimate 1 million self-deportations in... 6 months. We're at the 6-month mark, which I want to conclude this program today by talking about where we've come in these short 6 months. But the administration estimates 1 million people have self-deported. 1 million people have self-deported. And I misspoke a little bit. Migrants. So not... The job growth under Biden was not to Americans, basically. It was to migrants, which I believe includes at least a portion of folks who are here illegally, but some who, of course, were given asylum status and that sort of thing. But the bottom line is that that's all been turned and flipped on its head now because folks are self-deporting. We don't have a porous and open border. And this is good for America and, dare I say, for the folks who want to do things the right way and migrate here lawfully. These are all good things. So I'm going to back up Miller's comments just a few seconds here because I paused it. And I want you to listen to the rest of this. This is Stephen Miller explaining basically how this is going to work, why we're seeing this shift. 1 million illegal aliens have self-deported. Unbelievable.
And if illegal aliens understand the consequences of staying versus the opportunities of leaving, we're going to see millions and millions more self-deportations. Because if you stay, here's the consequences. You face sudden arrest, sudden deportation. You face the potential garnishment of all of your income, all of your wages, the loss of your property, incarceration and imprisonment for immigration and other crimes. If you choose to self-deport, you can go back home. You do have the opportunity to apply for legal entry if you wish to do so in the future, and you're going to get a $1,000 check on your way out. So it's a very clear choice, and we're seeing over 1 million legal aliens are clearly choosing just to go back to their countries. But look, at the end of the day, what this really comes down to is this, Jesse. Who lives in your country determines what your country is, right? Haiti doesn't work as a country. Like, it just doesn't. People have tried forever. People have spent billions of dollars trying to make Haiti work as a project. Haiti doesn't work. If you take Haiti and you move it to America, it's not going to work here. Somalia doesn't work as a country, has never worked as a country. You take Somalia out of Somalia, you put it here, it's not going to work any better. It's not about how you feel about an individual immigrant. It's about the policy at a systemic scale. If you move the third world to the first world, eventually we become the third world. And that's not good for us. It's not good for anybody who wants to live here in the future.
Okay, so his ending point there is, look, the United States of America works because the ideas, the principles upon which this country were built, they work. When you have orderly immigration and lawful immigration, and people are allowed to come in legally, and they have to learn and understand America's history and that sort of stuff. When they, let's say we actually tried to teach folks English and assimilate people as we once did in this country. The idea isn't to say we want to change everything about who you are. We want to make you just, mind-numb robots that follow the American way. We're actually trying to teach you so that you can be a part of this. You can become an American. And you don't have to give up all parts of your hair. That's not what this is about. This is about saying, look, the ideas that have made this country great, you're going to have to learn those. You're going to have to implement those. You're going to have to put those to use. We're going to give you the tools to come here. You just can't sneak across the border demanding that you be given entry, and then simply, however you were functioning in the society that you came from, you can't just move that here and suddenly expect it to work. That's what Miller's point here is. Now, a lot of people have a lot of problems with this because they tie identity to these ideas, when in reality, the ideas that have made this country great are not at all predicated upon a particular type of people. It's an idea that applies to all humanity. It's not just for one group of people, one identity of people. It's for anybody who wants to embrace it. It is bedrock truth that we have discovered and that we are implementing in this great country, or that we've had revealed, this truth revealed to us. We've learned these things. We want to teach people who are coming in. We don't just want to say, hey, bring whatever didn't work in your country here without changing it and suddenly make demands upon us. We've seen this happen in Europe, my friends. So that's what Stephen Miller's saying. And if you self-deport, you're going to get a check. You're going to get a chance to come in and do it the right way. If you don't, there's other consequences. You're going to be potentially arrested, deported. You're going to have all the negatives that come from that. We're not playing games. This is not going to continue. I have to take a break, my friends. Quick time out. You're listening to Conservative Not Better Talk. I'm your host, Todd Huff. Back in just a minute. Oh, yes, my friends, I know it's a sad, sad moment. It is the final segment of the week. My heart goes out to you. I understand how this might feel when I listen to clips of this program. Listen, you are lucky folks. Last segment of the week. We'll be back. Don't worry about it. It's just a weekend break. But, my friends, I want to tell you one more thing this segment that I want to go through. Before I do that, though, friends, let's face it, there are lots of companies out there that do not share our Christian values. The good news is that we do not have to invest in them. At 48 Financial. They specialize in biblically responsible investing. They'll help screen out companies that go against your faith and your values, and they'll create a plan that's tailor-made for reaching your goals, your objectives, your priorities. And they'll handle the heavy lifting for you so that you can focus on what really matters in your life. Basically, you tell them your priorities and plans, and they'll help you invest in companies that support, that align with that are pushing in the same direction, much like Freedom Marketplace, but in particular how investing your money can be aligned with what you believe and your values. So if you want to see what your current investments or how your current investments are in alignment or not in alignment with your values, just go to 48financial.com/Todd. 48financial.com/Todd. That's where you go to take a short assessment, and you can be given some feedback, some information to show you if your values are in alignment with your investments. 48 Financial, because your values matter, so does your money. All right. I alluded to, that we're at Trump's 6-month mark. Literally 179th day is today for Trump. So in office in his second term. I want to... today's Todd Talk was about this very topic, which you can find on the website at toddhuffshow.com. I think we post those. We post those on social media as well, and we'll be doing some more, building that back up here shortly. We've just had to make some adjustments here internally. But I want to go through a couple of things, because let's think back to where we were 6 months ago, right? 6 months ago, we came limping across the finish line. We got to 2025. I'm not even sure many of us thought we would make it, because the previous 4 years were all out, just hell on earth in every measurable, conceivable way. Inflation was out of control. We have now since learned, we had a president who wasn't even mentally fit for running the country. We don't know who was making decisions. They got this auto pen scandal, which we've kept an eye on and talked about on this program as well. Didn't know some of that then, though it's not surprising. We had, NATO nations that were still largely going to rely upon the United States to defend them. You had a wide open southern border, which we alluded to with Stephen Miller's soundbite last segment. We had an economy that was just really in shambles, just being held together by the fact that it has such a strong foundation here in America to be built upon, but it had been through the storms created by not climate change, but by the people who tell us we should be more worried about climate change than by their own stupid policies. And so we were in shambles. Now, 6 months later, and I talked about this in the Todd Talk today. Remember at the beginning of Trump's term, they wanted Trump to lower egg prices in his first, I said 45 minutes in the Todd Talk. It might have been 45 seconds. Remember people on Inauguration Day or the next day, when are egg prices coming down? Suddenly they cared about the price of things that have been blown up to astronomical levels by the former president, his administration. They had no concern for it then, but then they started asking us, is this what you voted for? When is this going to come down? The eggs are too expensive. What's going on? Well, turns out that those things have gotten fixed. Egg prices are down. Core inflation is at 0.2%, practically zero. Overall, the consumer price index is at under 3%, 2.9%, I think is what it was last month. The border is essentially secure. We have net negative. Folks, we have net negative, immigration, illegal immigration. There are more people going back across the border to the south than people coming across the border to the north. It sounds preposterous for those of us who have watched this debacle for our entire lives, or at least the last 25 years, 30 years. This is it stopped. And not only did it stop, it reversed. It stopped and it reversed. The tariffs have had a wonderful impact on this economy. There's new revenues coming in. There's more foreign investment coming into this country because the one way to avoid having to pay the tariffs is to have your product produced here. So people are making big investments here. NATO nations are now paying more to defend themselves. In fact, even looking to pay a higher percentage of their GDP instead of simply relying upon the United States of America. Iran's nuclear program has been crippled severely. The American economy is on pace to be, to have some incredible growth. There's some great opportunities that we have been longing for this in this country for some time. It is morning, as I said in the Todd Talk today, in America today, my friends. It is a good place to be. I gotta go. SDG.